Couple of lined up interviews here. Just give me a second, okay? We're right up against the election. I'm curious.
We're now 5 days from Election Day and the biggest mayoral race in the country that could upend all conventional wisdom in the three-way race. There's Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani,
Heard of this guy.
former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent, and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa. All of them have been busy crisscrossing the city campaigning. A new Marist poll out today of likely New York City voters show Mamdani with 48% over Cuomo's 32% and Sliwa's at 18%. Now, the stakes are high if Mamdani is elected. President Trump has threatened to withhold federal funding for the city and deploy National Guard troops here, as he's done or pledged to do in other Democratic-led cities like Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Portland. For months, the president has often gone after Mamdani.
We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. And all of these cities, we want to clean them up. We don't like that opposition. But if somebody's going to be a communist mayor of New York, it's a fluke if he gets in.
Earlier today, I spoke with the Democratic nominee, New York Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani.
You should learn from your enemies, man. The way the right reacts, you know for a fact Mamdani is the future of the Democratic Party. Who else are they scared of? They're putting sombreros on Hakeem Jeffries. Who the f*** else are they scared of in the Democratic Party? Who are they responding to in a way that indicates they're at all fearful? But no, I mean, the Democrats just fall right in line, you know? They make the same attacks against Mamdani that the right does. I mean, Jesus, didn't those, if those AI ads from Cuomo hadn't obviously been from Cuomo, weren't they just right-wing attacks? I mean, they certainly didn't come across like, you know, moderate liberal criticisms or whatever. They were just like right-wing hackery.
Recently, you know, we heard President Trump suggest he's going to withhold federal funding, possibly send in National Guard troops if you're elected. Andrew Cuomo has kind of amplified that. What do you say to New Yorkers who say, is this worth the hassle of losing perhaps a lot of money in federal funding if you become the mayor?
You know, we're already seeing this as a reality with Eric Adams as the mayor, right? The federal administration took $80 million out of city coffers. They suspended $50 million for our city schools. And then they threatened to withhold $18 billion in infrastructure grants. And the most effective way to push back on his threats is to actually name them for what they are and then use every tool at your disposal to take them on.
So what do you do if he decides? I mean, we already saw there was an ICE action on Canal Street. They said they were targeting undocumented immigrants who were, you know, selling counterfeit bags, which on Canal Street is kind of, there's a long history of that, obviously. What do you do?
I think this is an example of what is unacceptable in this country. I think the first thing that you do is you close the door that Eric Adams opened to the NYPD doing civil immigration enforcement. He said that on national television. The second thing you do...
So you would not allow the New York Police Department to engage or to cooperate with ICE or DHS?
Not in civil immigration enforcement. We have sanctuary city laws where we've been very, very clear that for a set of serious crimes, there is coordination with the federal administration, but anything beyond that...
Even this framing is so... Like, the fact that New York City is a sanctuary city is already known. The fact that they're not going to cooperate in civil enforcement, I feel like the framing here implies that what Mamdani's doing is special or unique. It's already law. Mamdani wasn't the one who said this. The sanctuary city laws, these are all over the country, in blue cities, blue states, and it's not like a democratic socialist thing.
That I think 172 crimes that are listed, that is something for the NYPD to focus on purely right here in New York City.
Leading Republicans are trying to make you, in some ways, the new face of the Democratic Party. I'm sure you heard what Speaker Mike Johnson said. He essentially blamed you, at least indirectly, for the ongoing government shutdown. I just want to play what he said.
They're worried about the radical left base that is rising in the Democrat Party, and some of the leading politicians here, including the two New Yorkers who run both chambers, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, are afraid they're going to get a challenge from a Mamdani-like candidate. And so they have to show a fight, and that's what this is about. The only reason they did it right now is because they're afraid of the rise of the far-left Marxists in their party, and they have to show them that they're going to fight. And real people are hurting during this political game, this showmanship.
Do you believe National Democrats are afraid of you? And Schumer has not endorsed you.
I believe the National Democrats are holding the line right now to actually call the question on the Trump administration, which ran a presidential campaign on the premise of cheaper groceries and is now using the power that they won to make it even harder to afford those groceries. And to hear someone try and pin this on me when what we've actually seen is that Americans just want their health care. They just want to be able to afford their groceries, their day-to-day lives. It shows how out of touch the Republican Party is.
There's a clip of you that's gone viral from 2023. Just 2 years ago, you were speaking at the Democratic Socialists of America. You talked about the importance of international solidarity, and this is what you said.
And I think that for anyone to care about these issues,
Need to tie.
we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. Right? We have to make, not specifically that example all the time, but just to say that for working class people who have very little time, who have so many stresses, who are under so many pressures, there isn't that much time for symbolism. We have to make.
It's so cool how in America in 2025, you can get in trouble for saying I hate Jewish Adolf Hitler, and then people are like, okay, I really think you care more about the Jewish part than the Adolf Hitler part. And you're like, no, it's the Adolf Hitler part. And they're like, okay, but what about this? Several years ago, you also said you hate Jewish Adolf Hitler. How do you respond? Like, it's nonstop, man. The fact that the NYPD has worked with the IDF is widely reported on. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a fringe leftist theory. It's well known.
Make it materially connected to their life.
What does that mean? That was just 2 years ago. What does that mean that the boots of the NYPD have been laced by the IDF?
It was a reference to training exercises that have taken place between the NYPD and the IDF. And I've spoken again.
So do you still believe that the NYPD is basically working in hand in glove with the IDF?
No, and I've made.
Whoa, Jesus Christ. He didn't say working hand in glove with. It's a reference to the fact that they have worked together, which is an objective fact. It's not a matter of what he believes. It's a widely reported fact.
Very clear is those are training exercises that were a concern to me, and what my focus is on working with the NYPD to actually deliver public safety for New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. And I've made the decision to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch because of her record in being able to deliver that safety.
I mentioned that in the sub, and somebody called me an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. Well, unfortunately, there's a bunch of correct shit you could say about Israel that makes you sound like an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. And for this, I completely blame the Democrats, by the way. Like, Israel is a Hitler country. If the Democrats lived up to even a fraction of the progressive intent they claim to believe in, the fact that Israel is a Hitler country would be unambiguously and widely believed among Democrats, and the criticisms of them would be as, like, look at Russia, for example. Russia has notable, well-documented ties to far-right parties all across Europe, including the Republican Party here in the United States. This is not a Russophilic conspiracy theory, or sorry, Russophobic conspiracy theory. It's a fact, you know? There are people who take it too far and believe that, like, Kremlin is pulling the strings over Trump or whatever, but, you know, the fact that they are involved and connected at the very least, this is just true. But I think that on the right, when you say that, a lot of them consider you a lunatic conspiracy theorist because they're embroiled in a media environment where any accusation that Russia is involved is targeted and treated as though it's ridiculous. And I think the Democrats do the same thing with Israel, you know, and that's really a skill issue. I feel like that's really common among people who are right-wing. You can state general facts. They believe you are ideologically aligned with those facts. I mean, and look, I am ideologically aligned with the belief that Israel is a Hitler country. You know, I'm willing to stake my reputation on that. Famously, I've believed it for as long as I've been streaming, which is why I got banned from Twitch so quickly. But like, I just think it's sickening, like this narrative that Mamdani has to constantly, you know, they claim he's obsessed with Israel. Nobody wants to talk with him about anything else. None of these big, you know, so-called Democrat media moguls, none of these politicians, none of these pundits, none of them want to talk with him about his agenda to make New York City affordable. Nobody wants to talk with him about his ideas. Everyone just wants to talk with him about Israel. The only conversation I've seen with him recently, I saw his convo with Jon Stewart, who's Jewish, and I saw his conversation with Andrew Schultz, that right-wing comedian. Those are the only two recent conversations I've seen with Mamdani where anyone gave a about anything other than Israel, Israel, Israel.
Reducing crime across the 5 boroughs.
That's new. Previously you wouldn't say that you wanted to retain her. You were saying point blank. I mean, she's helpful. She's done a remarkable job, it seems, lowering crime rates.
What I've said throughout the course of the campaign, I think since April, was that I would consider it because I think these decisions are very important. They're ones that you have to actually take your time with.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Real pleasure.